Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PBA at Noon. I'm Sophy Cesar, and my colleague, the ever-famous Paul Benwell, couldn't join us today, but don't worry, we have a really great treat for you today. Joining me for our update with the whole Hawkmoon Resource team today is guest host Phillip Shum, Director of Listings Development for the CSE. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks a lot. It's going to be a great time today.
Great. So before we get started with the Hawkmoon team, Phil, I was thinking maybe you could go ahead and share with our attendees the initiatives the CSE has put into place for junior mining, junior mining companies looking to list or already listed, such as Hawkmoon.
Well, to give you perspective, first of all, the Canadian Securities Exchange, if you didn't know, is the exchange that Hawkmoon is listed on, but we have approximately 700 companies at this point. We've grown extensively over the last probably three and a half years or so. When I joined the exchange, we had about 350 companies, so we're approximately double at this point. In terms of overall junior mining companies, we're probably 200 or so. In all different sectors, and through that, I mean, we, as everyone knows, I mean, mining is very much something very Canadians focused. We have done quite a bit in terms of like staffing up from our standpoint. We've got geos which are on staff who are reviewing files at this point. And then we've got either in Vancouver or in Toronto. So we got the qualified individuals there. We have seen a good number of listings which have come in recently over the last little while, and we're looking to make sure that we service the sector appropriately.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great. So you know what, since we have quite a big team with from Hawkmoon with us today, I think we should jump right into it. And I'm going to invite you guys to join us, and I will let the team do their own introductions. So of course, we do have Branden Haynes, the CEO of the company, with us. There you go, Branden. Do you want to go ahead and get your team on board here and do the introductions and give us an update on all the great things you guys are doing? And Phil and I will be back afterwards to ask you guys some questions. And we also invite all our attendees to ask the questions in the Q&A or in the chat if you'd like, once the Hawkmoon team is done. Thank you.
Go ahead and log on, Hugh, with your video.
I'm trying to do that actually. I don't know why it's not. Oh, there we are.
There we go. You're in. Perfect.
Hi.
Thank you for attending, everybody. You have virtually the entire team except for our CFO, Jeff Balderson, who's busy right now, couldn't make it. But it's awesome to have you guys on. Let's begin.
I'm Hugh Oswald. I've been in the capital markets for over 20 years. Background was with Coopers and Lybrand, so I'm kind of dating myself there. It's now PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I'm thrilled to be part of this team.
Branden Haynes, CEO, and I started Hawkmoon Resources as a founder in the beginning of 2019. I wanted to challenge myself to take a company public, see if I could do it. It's now a reality. We've been drilling this summer. It's been fantastic, and I'm pretty excited about the future. So it's been an immense success so far.
Yeah. I'm Clemence Bertrand, so the Vice President of Investor Relations for Hawkmoon. I joined Hawkmoon in June, and been working with Branden and the rest of the team. Has been a pleasure so far. My background is in marketing and investor relations, and I have worked for more than 7 years for a public company trading in Canada and in the US. And I have met Branden actually through Sophy, which I know for quite a few years now. And that's how I joined Hawkmoon.
My name is Thomas Clarke. I remember talking with Branden with a friend of ours in Vancouver at the Cactus Club. I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see the company. Yeah, it's exciting to see the company come so far, so fast, and it's good to work with such a good group of people. I'm a professional geologist. I've been working various commodities and areas since 2004. And I've been active in Quebec since 2010 when I was with Bonterra, which led to the first resource estimate. So it's a good area, good team, and yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
Hi, everybody. Bonjour. My name is Eric Lemieux. I'm probably the newbie because I just joined Hawkmoon as a strategic advisor. I'm basically an independent mining analyst based here in Quebec. I'm a professional geo. Basically worked for the regulators after working in the industry with companies such as Cambial, Noranda, and SOCAN. And as I say, I was with the regulators for a better part of till up to 2008 when a banker at Laurentian Bank Securities came and got me to make me become a mining analyst. So since 2008, I've been a mining analyst more on the sell side. But right now, for the last 3-4 years, I'm an independent analyst and try to cover North American stories on the exploration and development side. And so what attracted me to Hawkmoon was effectively their Wilson project, because it's a project that Cartier Resource had in its staple. And I always had a sort of my heart for Wilson. And so basically, I'm just here to sort of guide and give my technical acumen and help Tom to better express the technical aspects of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Clemence, if you want to go ahead with the deck.
Yeah.
Okay. The first 2 pages is the introduction and the standard forward-looking statements. I think most people know about us now as we are Quebec-based focused. We look at acquiring undervalued projects in Quebec. We're mining and exploring for gold. And obviously, we have a pretty significant amount of experience combined if you take the whole group. So that's our branding, and we're sticking to it. You're not going to see us suddenly announce properties in Arizona or Golden Triangle. It's always Quebec-based focused. Next slide. Why Quebec? Well, as I mentioned, it's a great jurisdiction, one of the best in the world. John Brzezinski of Cisco Mining has said it quite succinctly. Quebec is one of the best mining jurisdictions on the planet, and we agree. So next slide. We do have 3 projects within Quebec. Tom's got a nice background within Quebec as well, particularly with Gladiator deposit from Bonterra Resources. We are effectively using our capital management to limit dilution, and you'll see that as the Zoom call progresses. We're able to talk about some of the financial savings we've had over the previous drill program on Wilson this summer. We intend to continuous work programs. We'll be announcing a new drilling program shortly, and we look to have over the next several months more investment catalysts. Next slide, please. So there's the team, which you can see most of us are here. The only one missing is Jeff Balderson, our CFO. Next slide. Here we go. Okay, so this is more for people that maybe are outside of Quebec, are not as familiar with the Abitibi and which area it is in comparison to Montreal and Quebec City. As you can see, the properties lie within that northern region. Val d'Or seems to be the general epicenter of our focus, and our properties would surround it from there. Next slide, please. So I'll hand this section over to Tom and Eric. They'll be discussing a little bit about the Wilson property and as well the history and some of the drilling that's occurred.
Maybe I could just ask to go a slide back, Clemence, and just permit me to just do a general overview of what's going on here in Quebec and put things into maybe a historical perspective. I guess I don't have too much grade, but I did graduate back in 1989 with a degree in geology, and I did get a second master's degree back in 97 at the Colorado School of Mines. And if you recall, 97, it was the Briac saga. And that's how I sort of became a regulator, because I joined the Montreal Stock Exchange. And so I have a little bit of acumen in terms of the regulatory aspects. But anyways, long story short, I want to just highlight the fact that the Abitibi Greenstone Belt is world renowned. Beyond Quebec being, a very good jurisdiction, what I want to highlight is that Hawkmoon's property are very well located. And I highlight the fact that, as you can see, Val d'Or is a mining hub. And the Wilson and Romeo projects, which are part of the urban Barrie greenstone belt, which is a sub-volcanic belt of the Abitibi belt, are located maybe, 2 hours and a half drive from Val-d'Or. So basically, they're accessible by pickup truck. And actually, the Wilson project, as we, with Thomas, go deeper down, it's 15 kilometers from the Belle-sur-Quivillon, which is a forestry center. But what I want to highlight is you can actually go there with your Toyota Prius if you wanted to. So maybe not on the main stripping area, but you can get on the property. So it's something that I think is remarkable, that it's accessible. And I think that's a high point. Also is the fact that you've got that mining expertise. And I'll just go quick in terms of the history. What I want to highlight about the Wilson and Romeo projects is that it's located in the Barrie urban greenstone belt. And as we know, the Windfall project, which is a Cisco Mining's 5+ million ounce deposit, well, back in 2010, that project did not necessarily exist. And so it's something that's relatively new. And the whole Barrie urban belt was sort of considered as a greenstone belt that was not very well worked because it was only small deposits. We had deposits that ranged below 0.5 million ounces. So it was really renowned for these little small deposits. And so people sort of really discounted it, except at Eagle Hill back in 2008. We looked at the Windfall project, and lo and behold, with time, well, it fell into the Cisco's hands. And we see now that Windfall is a world-class deposit. Something I want to also say is that that whole Barrie urban belt was not worked back in the 70s and 80s because Hydro-Quebec, with its Bay James hydroelectric complex, which is much more to the north, had sort of sterilized the area because there was maybe talk of a third phase to sort of dam the rivers more towards the south, the Nottoway River, the Bell River. And so that was put off in terms of exploration. So just factor in the history behind this area, the Barrie urban belt. It wasn't really worked as much as maybe lower down, if we want, the Val-d'Or region with the Cadillac Larder Fault and the Destor Porcupine Fault just to the north, a little bit south of the Muss. But long story short is that the Barrie urban belt, to me, presents really a fascinating geological domain right now because it hasn't been worked that much. And so I think the Wilson project in that regard just shows that even though there's historical work, there's opportunity for the whole global picture. And Lavoie, we perhaps talk later on, but that's in the Belterre greenstone belt, which is south of the Abitibi. And that's another one where, it's a mine that was mined back in the 60s and 70s or even before that. And if you look back the last 30 years, it's been neglected. So it's all opportunities that I see for Hawkmoon working in a world-class district, but in subsets where it has been less work. And so Tom, maybe go into more specifics on the Wilson project first.
Yeah, Clemence, can you advance to the Wilson property slide there, please? Yeah, the Wilson property, as Eric said, is very well located. It's only about a 15-20 minute drive east of the Belle-sur-Quivillon, which is a pretty decent little town. You can get most of the things you need to do there, grocery supplies, etc. And if you need to go to Val-d'Or, it's about an hour and a half if the roads are in good condition. So we really like the location. And between the Belle-sur-Quivillon and the project are power lines and a rail line. So there's plenty of infrastructure in the area. There's also a lot of the town is very pro mining. They just seem to be restarting their forestry mill this summer. It was on and off. But when that closed, it really affected them negatively. So they really moved into mining. And the volume, as Eric was mentioning about Cisco Mining's Windfall project, like the pure volume of samples, ALS Global opened a prep lab in the town, and we got our drill permits granted in 3 days. So they're really on side with the whole mineral exploration sector. And I like to, we can discuss the geology, of course, but I just thought I'd have to say that it makes life easier. It makes things cheaper. We had an amazing drill campaign with Faubert Fils. The rate was, all-in driller's rate was about $93 a meter, which is fantastic. So we could drill more meters that way as well, based on this location. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are the drill holes that have been disclosed to date in the first two press releases. The blue ones were in the first news release, and the red ones were in the second. So 14 holes have been, it's actually 14 holes have been received and 14 holes are pending. We just received, notification that they're in the system, so we're not sure when we're going to get them. But you know, we're excited. We're waiting on these holes, especially some new areas that we drill. This map shows the main showing, the Toussaint area, that was discovered by Free West, I believe, in 1992. And they did a lot of work on the project. And the holes after this, the new holes that have been released, that will be released in the future, are to the east. There's that red and white hatched line, which is a trail. So then we drilled to the eastern area of Toussaint underneath some deeper holes to try to test tonnage and grade continuity. Furthermore, we went north to an area, it's just a step back, sorry, it's about 1 kilometer roughly in length between the mid-rim showing in the northeast to the Toussaint in the southwest. So in that middle area, there's some areas with basically very little data. Some areas have a lot of data. So we drilled about 4 holes to try to see if we could extend the mid-rim to the southwest towards the Toussaint. We're trying to see how big all these zones can be. And you know, we saw the mineralized rock in every hole, which is great. Now we'll see what the values are. But yeah, it's an exciting project. So once we get all our numbers, we can sit back and kind of analyze what the plan is for 2022. But if certain holes hit, that opens some potential for, you know, trying new extensions, doing some surface work, and of course followed by additional diamond drilling. Yeah, it's a great area. I really liked it. I was there for 2 months this summer, and we have a great crew, great driller. So everything came in it came in, I think, about 150,000 or so under budget. So that those funds are reserved for future work campaigns that we're going to do as a company. So it's cheap to work, it's got good results, and we're optimistic for the future of it.
So Tom, what has been the deepest holes done on the Toussaint and the mid-rim showings?
We didn't do too many deep holes. We stuck to average around 200 meters, maybe, you know, but we did some 250s. Cartier drilled has some deep intercepts. They hit mineralized Toussaint zone down to, I believe it's about 550 meters below the surface. It's generally ranges, most of the intercepts that I've seen are, you know, from surface down to around 300. So those deeper intercepts show some really interesting potential. And looking at this map, you can see Toussaint and mid-rim, and all the red circles are drill holes. The Moneta Porcupine North showing also very interests me. We never got to it this year because we started trying to extend the mid-rim. And if you look to the east, there's 2 other stars on the map, the Benoit and the T and M gold showings. What looks to me now, this is based on old maps, it requires a lot of work, surface work next year. It looks like the mid-rim shear zone is faulted to the south, and there's a shear, it looks like it goes between those 2 showings. Now that may or may not be true, so we'd have to test this idea, but we're just looking at how we can grow this project and the potential. But yeah, there's gold showings all over the place, which is very positive.
Well, I just want to highlight the fact that if you can go back, Clemence, just quickly on a bigger picture, you know, the property is a sizable property. I just want to reiterate the fact that effectively you're 15 kilometers from the Belle Quevion, so you're right next to the town site, and you actually could go there with your scooter if you want, and it's forestry roads, very well maintained. So, you know, the accessibility is number one. And then just to highlight what Tom was saying about, you know, there's a lot of showings there, but when you look at the density of drilling and the scope of things for the Abitibi, that's not a lot of drilling. And you confirmed, Tom, with me that, you know, there hasn't been deep holes. And I always appreciate as a geologist is that when I see a lateral strike extension on surface of, let's say, 300 meters, or I'll be conservative, 200 meters, there's this 4-to-1 rule in the Superior Province that we geologists use, that, and it's been proven in the Abitibi, that you maybe have a 4x-to-1 ratio where what you see on surface laterally, you've got 4 times that depth. So if you do, you know, 200 meters and you multiply by 4, it comes out to 800 meters. So what I want to portray over here is that, you know, the system is still open at depth, and you could maybe have something that blossoms at depth, a bit like the Laronde, world-class Laronde deposit on the Cadillac Larder structural break, which belongs to Agnico Eagle, which is one of their flagships. So I just want to highlight the fact that there's potential both, as you just mentioned, Tom, laterally, because there's other showings that haven't been drilled that much. And I just want to highlight the fact that also, even on surface, it hasn't been prospected that much. So I think it's probably interesting to just see that you can play at different levels, both on the surface exploration, maybe with mechanical machinery, and also with the drill rig.
That's right. And that's why the big part of next year is to try to do you get more mechanical stripping in there. It's just the way the schedule worked this year, we didn't get as much as we wanted to, but there's all sorts of opportunities to explore around there. And yeah, we want to do both, enhancing our current zones as well as trying to, are there new zones? Can we connect these others together? So there's a lot of work for us to do. So that's good. And yeah, it's deep holes always give it that dimension. And just you see those black lines on the map there, that R1050 is also known, that bends to the left to KVO. That's also known locally as the 1000 road. And the one that goes to the southeast, the R1053 is, I believe it's a 5000, and that goes to Windfall as well as Bon Terrace Gladiator. So yeah, it's a well located area with lots of potential.
And I just want to highlight that if you see the Toussaint showing, which is in the center, which is the one that's probably been most drilled, and then to the northeast, you've got Midrim. You can see that even between Toussaint and Midrim, there's an area where it hasn't been drilled. So I think that's, on occasion. And I think, Tom, maybe the next slide, you'll just show us some of the recent results. I don't know if it's 13 or 14 holes that have been disclosed. There's maybe a discussion in that regards, but suffice it to say that you've drilled 28 holes and in an area that's, relatively between Toussaint and Midrim, and we'll see what the remaining results, but just to highlight the fact that, there's probably other targets on the property. And, as we mentioned earlier on, you see that Benoit showing in that TNM and the Moneta Porcupine. And with all the new knowledge base that we're getting in types of geological models, the new type of technology we have in mining, I think it opens up a whole perspective of relooking at this through different eyes. Because as you said, I think Cartier worked at it, but Cartier was really focused on Toussaint. And previously, before that, was Free West. And I always try to put things into context. Free West was working also on the Windfall deposit with Noron. And so, sometimes you just got to put into perspective that, there's corporate priorities going on. And without saying it was neglected, they might not have done as much as they could have perhaps done. So I think that is an occasion for Hawkmoon.
And in closing on this slide, that's actually those are good points. Two things. One, these are holes before Hawkmoon. So there are some to the west of the Midrim. That's our new area. But if you see, there's a line that goes kind of southwest to northeast from Toussaint. It kind of bends at the Midrim and then bends to the west around the Porcupines and down to Parnor. That's the fold structure. So basically from the Toussaint, everyone holes is drilled from the north towards the south, well, northwest to southeast. And my little curiosity is that's the same for all the holes on the north side. So I'm wondering if they could be, I wanted to go and try to drill some of those backwards, but we just got so busy elsewhere. So yeah, there's a huge fold structure in there. Then that's kind of the area of interest that we want to focus on as well.
Interesting.
And here are just some highlights of assays we brought out. We've had a few really, really good holes. Obviously hole 1, 9, and 8. I can't see the grades on the right due to our screens, but I was very happy with these grades. And we just, we're waiting on the metallic sieve fraction from the lab. And what that is, we assay gold samples with a maximum detection limit of 10 grams per ton. So it'll come back as greater than 10, and they rerun that with gravimetric finish for the real assays, like the 58.8 sample, the 38 gram per ton sample. And then also we should hopefully get these soon. And if there is a coarse gold content, that could adjust these grades upwards. Maybe, we're not sure. I don't want to be presumptive on that, but that is present in the Abitibi, in this part of the Abitibi, from my experience at Bon Terrace. So hopefully that helps us as well. So time will tell.
Would you say this is about like a 10% to 20% bump, or what would be the range potentially?
Oh, it's highly variable. I've had some that were 5%, and I've had some that were nuts, for like 30%. But yeah, probably 10 would be reasonable. It might be a little higher. So it could make a 10 gram sample maybe be 12, for example, or something. So we'll see. I'm looking forward for those numbers.
So that's another catalyst, right?
Yeah.
The invoice from ALS Labs should be coming in the next few days to a week. So that's our somewhat timeline and expectation on that. And then we'll see what happens as far as results trickling in off through that.
So this is just the terms of the deal with Cartier. We're basically ahead of schedule, basically on the meters. Where the meters is kind of like a ballpark estimation. But yeah, there's some nice rock there. That's at the midrim especially, you'll see semi-massive sulfides. And to saying it's more refined in these parallel laminations, you see kind of a striped appearance. But at the midrim, you sometimes see these local areas of more semi-massive sulfides. So I'm really kind of eager to see what the grades of some of these samples are. But next slide, please.
Also, we can note on that last slide, Clemence, that you see the first set of drilling expectation for year 1 anniversary was 3,000 meters. Because of Tom's negotiation with Faubert and the low cost for drilling and work in Quebec, we decided to bump our drilling numbers to 5,000 meters. So we actually did an additional 2,000, which we have in credit. And that extra 2,000 could be potentially some wonderful results coming down the pipe that we wouldn't have been able to touch if we had just done 3,000 meters. So for a company that's been trading for just about 6 months, 5,031 meters is quite substantial when you compare it to peer-to-peer of Bonterra or even Clarity Gold, which did 10,000 meters with a much bigger market cap and larger treasury than ours. So I think we're punching above our weight here, and we're excited about where the anniversaries are going to take us.
I appreciate that the money is being put on the ground. I mean, it's $6 million. It's a lot of drilling, but that's how you create value. And so that obligation, yes, it's an obligation to put money on the ground and drill, but I think it's a win-win situation for everybody where the money is being spent on the property and not on corporate sort of aspects or cash for Cartier, et cetera. So I think it's a win-win situation. In that
Very
regard
true, Eric. And in addition to your point, our last first of financing we did as a publicly traded company, we completed in August. We did gross proceeds of $796,770, which was almost the same amount of money that this program cost. So effectively, 100% of the cash was raised in those placements went into this exploration drilling and the work that we did. So it was a wash, and we therefore didn't have to dilute the treasury too much beyond the initial financing. So good cost effective and shows that we are trying to stretch every dollar and show a good investment catalyst for our long-term shareholders.
Okay.
Next slide. So sorry, previous slide. Yeah, so there's a picture of Tom. Now, the guy with the glasses there and the gray shirt is Denis Faubert. Obviously, that's the drillers. And the man next to him is Mike Lavoie. Mike's a local prospector, well known within the Quebec space and immensely helpful to Hawkmoon. Him and his co-worker Thierry were running back and forth core to Val d'Or for us, additionally helping cut costs. And Faubert was excellent in being able to drill any little issues that might have come up. They were able to take care of them in a very timely fashion. So we intend to use them for future drill programs as much as we can. They're a very good team, and they've been able to actually, they're releasing a second drill. And these drills are able to go down to 2,000 meters in depth. They were actually working in Malartic mine for a while as well. So they've got big experience as well as working with smaller juniors like ourselves. Next slide.
The drill core size is HQ or NQ?
NQ.
NQ. So that's a good size for, first of all, as a geologist to be able to log. And after that, in terms of the sample size, I think that's better than the smaller VQ, right?
Yeah, you get more, especially for gold, the more rock, the better to put in the bag, right? If you get the nugget effect, because gold moves around. So yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So now we go to the Lava project, which is in the Belterre Greenstone Belt, so to the southwest of Val d'Or, if you recall the previous map.
Yeah. So in addition to Eric's point, Hawkmoon is planning a drill program in the near future on this property. We're going to do just 1,000 meters of drilling. It will satisfy the work commitments. Obviously, a drilling program is a little bit more exciting for market-based than just surface-based programs. What we're looking at doing is an exploration. This property hasn't been touched since 2007, so it needs an update. And I think Eric and I may be actually on site together for this one if things do work out. So this could be a nice opportunity to kind of explore this property. We're interested to see where it's going to go, and it's a nice secondary region to be working in. We have plans to possibly work with another company within the area for maybe a joint venture, or have them acquire this after it's shown its results.
Maybe I could just mention that company, because it is public, and it's one of the companies I do cover. It's Vior Inc., VIO on the venture. They recognized the Belterre value proposition early in, I should say, late 2020. And actually, it's their press release back in January of 2021 that sort of illuminated where they acquired they made transactions to acquire some acreage there. And I think what happened is they basically stole the carpet from below Cisco's feet. And what I mentioned that is just because, as you recall, Canadian Malartic is a world-class deposit. But I always say as a geologist, Canadian Malartic is relatively new in terms of the conception of the mining of an open pit. It wasn't something that was very used here in Quebec 20 years ago. And so it was sort of a new geological model to see this low-grade gold mineralization in an old mining camp, because Malartic was renowned as an underground high-grade mining camp. And so the Cisco guys reworked this in a different way. And so without saying that the Belterre belt was neglected, it wasn't looked in that perspective. And I'm not saying Vior is necessarily looking for a second Canadian Malartic, but when you put everything together, there's maybe some potential to re-look at the geology over there and recognize some new models that were not known the last 30 years. So I think that's an opportunity. And I think Lavoie, which is more toward the west of the belt area, also, as you say, it presents itself an opportunity because it hasn't been worked that much in the scope of things.
Yeah, well said, Eric. And I know as far as Faubert e-fills, over the last week, they've been preparing transportation, some altering, and in order to carry a drill that's 16 tons across 6 kilometers of rough road into Lavoie. So the infrastructure there is being worked on, and we should have some exciting announcements in the near-term future regarding Lavoie. Next slide. So I got to walk Lavoie with when Mark Fegeda and Marty Huber was involved in that as well, breakaway exploration this summer. The property is quite overgrown. There's busy beaver there, as in a lot of areas in Quebec, but we're excited about seeing what this has as a secondary property for us in Hawkmoon. Next slide. Tom, do we have any updates for Romeo that we can provide?
Yeah, we went back to the same general area this last summer, and we're looking around those shear zones, and we found there's an area of volcanics, which we've kind of been focusing most of our efforts on. So we're waiting. We have some samples in the lab. We're waiting on those, and it's from what shear we didn't really get to last year. So we're just waiting to see what comes out of that. But yeah, all of our work on Romeo lately is just basically on the eastern part of the property there. So yeah, we're waiting on those assays as well. So we'll see what we get. Excellent, thank you. Next slide.
So there we go. Total exploration programs. We were able to come in under cost for our July-August one on Wilson. The Romeo was fairly cost effective as well. And this is our projected cost for Lavoie in Q4. The company's been able to manage all 3 of these programs in the first 6 months. So we're quite happy with the progress so far. Next slide. Capital structure and market data is all available on our websites. It's pretty self-explanatory. I can confirm that much of the float that's currently trading, 25 million of it is held by the board owns about 8 million shares, and the rest is in friendly hands of about 15 shareholders who have $1 million plus each. And so we have about 25 million in friendly hands that we know exactly where it is. The remainder would be, trading on our float. So we're moving forward and looking to increase our market cap, as well as we'd like to see our 52-week high eventually trading beyond 20 cents. Right now at 9.5, 10 cents, Hawkmoon is a good little buy for where we're at, and particularly with future drill results to come from Wilson, as well as other catalysts with lava and new trading in America on the OTCQB. Next slide. So just to cover the investment highlights, some excellent properties and projects within Quebec, experienced management team with 80 plus years of experience. Thomas Clarke is a proven finder of mineral deposits. Same with Eric. The two of them have loads of experience within Quebec, and they're an excellent team. And they're going to help guide us as we've already covered advancing this Wilson property. So this is an opportunity to invest in a newer listed public company, tight capital structure, good projects, and a safe jurisdiction with close proximity to mines. We've already completed an impressive meters drilling program, and we have plans for another one next year, as well as a 1,000 meters projected for lava this coming year as well. So that's about 6 months of trading, 6,000 meters of drilling, averaging 1,000 meters of drilling a month. Not bad for a little junior as Hawkmoon is. Next slide. Thank you for your time. We'll open this up to Phillip and Sophie to answer questions and give a bit more information.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It was actually a pleasure to have both Tom and Eric on the Zoom together. You guys answered asked a lot of the questions that we probably wanted to ask you. But Phil, did you have any questions for the team?
Yeah, actually, so in terms of like some of the drilling that you talked about, can you maybe elaborate on what your kind of going cost would be attached with that, like either on a per meter basis or what the labs are looking like in terms of delays or timing for that type of stuff?
Yeah, probably your all-in cost. Well, everything, the driller, the food, the fuel, everything. It was under 200, so that was good. It was probably what 780,000 divided by 5,000 would get you that number. The labs are actually not too bad. They're probably about 5 weeks from what I can tell. So, obviously we can't predict a date but I'd say generally speaking, I'd hope to have, get our results within a month, maybe faster, maybe a little later. I think that's reasonable to expect. But yeah, they've actually been pretty decent. They're less slow than I was expecting. I think they've hired some more people, which is good.
Just to touch on Phil's question, Tom, is that price per meter, is that normal for the area? Is that like what you'd be
low?
Oh, it's low. Okay.
It's actually quite low. Because if you looked at that way back at that, the work commitment, it was $750,000 in work we're supposed to do, and we're based on typical numbers. We're basing that around 3,000 meters. But we started kind of, got a good deal with the drillers. I've got a good network of friends there that were very reasonable, and they want to make it work and get as much work, but also get as much growth in the project. And so it was a good balance, and so we got more bang for our buck. So no, I'd probably say we're maybe 25-30% less than some competitors.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Phil, if you don't mind, I'm just going to hop in here.
Yeah, sure,
how long can you drill until? And so if, for this season, and then when would next season start?
Year round.
Well, yeah, we can drill year round. The best two times to drill are summer and the middle of winter. The fall is not a good time because it's a hunting season. And my 10 years or so worked in Quebec, that's serious time. You don't go into the bush when people are hunting moose. So yeah, but yeah, it's flexible. It's good access, but we'll probably next year, we're not sure yet. We're looking at our options, but there's lots of options timing wise.
Yeah, I would add there's Branden and Thomas are right to say it's your year long, but there's the spring breakup where, you know, if you want to be careful with the environment, you could drill, but when snow is melting and the ice is breaking up, you just sort of make a mess. And so there's maybe a 3-week time period, depends where you are, but I would say usually it's the end of March, beginning of April, where companies don't work. And the same thing in the fall. I mean, I know the moose are attracted by drill rigs, the noise. I've got stories about, you know, drillers saying, you know, we've been seeing moose the whole time we're drilling, and then we go back to our hometown to hunt and we don't see any. So, you know, there's some frustration. But long story short is that, yeah, in terms of just being reasonable neighbors with the active users of the land, you're better off just slowing down the work. I would say the hunting season is maximum of 3 weeks to 2 to 3 weeks. So I think it is fair. And sometimes it just gives the companies a break, do some tabletop work, wait till the assays come in, do some compilation. So I think it's a good breather and it's a good balance. But yes, you can drill year round, but those 3 weeks in the spring and the fall, I think everybody enjoys.
And one thing we can all agree is Quebec, in comparison to, say, the Golden Triangle in northern BC, has a much longer work cycle than that camp, for instance.
And also the Golden Triangle, I know people working there right now, they're all excited they got their permit applications, and I said, well, it's just a permit, it's not a big deal. And they were waiting 11 months for a permit.
Yes, yes.
We got ours in 2 to 3 days. We got ours in 2 to 3 days. As long as they paid a stumpage fee for moving trees around for trails. And so they were fine with that.
Not to mention, Tom, we as a company have a great relationship with the local First Nations there. You're on close with the chief as well as his wife. And we did set up some credits there at the store. So things are looking good on that side.
Yeah, I've known Marshall Icebound since Bonterra days, and his wife, Julie Trapper. Marshall and Julie are great. He's actually the tally man for that area. And, you know, we'd make sure, because I was at Bonterra and then Eagle Hill at the time, we'd split the road plow, and we'd always kind of plow at his camp, and he'd kind of knock off snow off our tents. So, it's been a long relationship. So everything is fine on that front also.
Excellent.
So between the 3 properties, I see you've done some work on all 3 of them, but like which one of the 3 do you think is arguably the best bet to actually become the principal property, on the assumption that, you know, that Wilson is not already the principal property?
Wilson is our principal property. Yeah.
Okay, right.
We do have a question here from Sean. The best results in the samples are 59 grams per ton, 38 grams per ton, 22 grams per ton, and 31 grams per ton. Given the length is approximately 1 meter with the depth to approximately 100 meters, could you explain the feasibility of these numbers?
Oh, that's a little bit early, but
okay.
but all samples are a bit, like, there's a few that aren't a meter, mostly they're just meters. So, but the thing is you don't want to look at just one sample. Like, there's often, you know, 3 or 4 that define your zone. What's good about Wilson, because it's basically vertically dipping, which is basically most Abitibi properties are like that. The gold is totally in, like, you're either in or out of it. So it's easy to define. So as we get more drilling down the road, and yeah, we might look at options like that, but it's a good question. But yeah, we need some more data points first.
And so, you know, Tom, you'd mentioned that you hadn't drilled very deep. And I know it might be early to answer this question, but do you think that in the future this would be an open pit project to start?
Maybe locally, near the surface, near the main showings. But it is early to tell. But from what I can tell, it's you know, I'm assuming it'd be an underground mine for the most part, but sometimes it might be accessible by a pit.
Excellent. Phil, sorry not to cut in there, but I do have another question here. Mm-hmm. Eric mentioned that you could drive your Prius up to the property, but does the team foresee that there'll be a need to put any investment in infrastructure in the future at the Wilson?
Well, it depends. Like, I drove my Volkswagen Golf from Alberta to Quebec. I took it to the property a couple times. The last access road, it was really dry then, so I just went slow. It was fine. But yeah, but the main roads are fine. We pushed through. We had a Thierry. He had an excavator, and we kind of planned drill holes. So he would then kind of just clear a small path, and then the driller's D6 cat would push through trails. They're muddy, they're dirty, it's early stage, and it's really cheap. But in the future, yeah, we might want to do some upgrades. We'll have to see how the results are in that middle zone.
Okay, excellent.
But we're not talking about a 100-kilometer road up a steep.
No.
No.
I think
1
people have to
kilometer here,
recognize
maybe
that.
1 kilometer there. Yeah,
Exactly.
it wouldn't be very expensive.
In response to Sean Keeley's question about private placements in the future, Sophie, if you'd like to arrange a call with him and myself, I'm happy to get into that.
Okay, perfect. And so we've gone a little over our usual time, but there was so much information to share. So just before we wrap up, Phil, did you have any other questions?
Just briefly looking over your PowerPoint deck again, and so from a 43-101 standpoint, I know that like the exchange would have required you to actually have like a technical report initially, but how much like what is the plans for a maiden resource, and like how much money would be required to actually drill that out?
Well, that's a good question. I'm currently writing the assessment report. Obviously, we're still waiting on numbers and all that stuff, and that could be turned into a technical report. I'm not sure, honestly. There's a friend I know that, to be honest, I'm not really sure. So I want to see kind of what she thinks. Mm-hmm. And if, a back of the napkin estimate is pretty interesting, we might go ahead, or we might wait for another 5,000 meters. Yeah. At BTR, we drilled about 13,000 meters plus historical, and then we had our first number. So I think that's probably the most prudent way, but who knows? We'll see how these numbers look, and we might adjust that.
Okay.
Great. Well, everyone, thank you very much. Phil, thank you for joining us and guest hosting. I really appreciate it. And to the Hawkmoon team, it was a pleasure and a first to have so many of you on the call, but I really think it was important for your shareholders. So thanks again. And yep, we hope to have you back shortly, and we'll be waiting for those results.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good luck. That's great.
Thanks.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Merci.
Au revoir.